Fatima. Assalamu alaikum. Sabah khair. Really good to see so many colleagues, clients, and friends here. I love coming to Doha. I was wearing my Qatari tie earlier, but took it off to wear this badge. I think next year is, I'm proud to say, my 30th year of coming to work in Doha. And I'm delighted to be here, so thank you very much to everybody. What I want to do in the next 15 minutes is give you a very condensed triple espresso view of some of the prime themes that we're seeing from a lot of our research from Mercer Talent Enterprise. So this is some global research, but it's also very specific based on assessments that we're conducting amongst Qatari talent and expats in Qatar as well. So I want to make sure we make it as positive and productive as possible. I've got about one slide per minute, so I'll try and move quite fast, which is why you might need a triple espresso. I'm also delighted that since last year, Mercer has its own office and registration in Doha, and a lot of our team are here today. Many of them were in the boardroom sessions yesterday. Dr. Khaloud also was there. And if we don't have time to answer all your questions or to go into enough detail, then please do come next door and visit our booth. We'll be there all day. We have lots of samples. We have lots of further information. We'll be delighted to carry on the conversation there. Okay, please, let's have a bit of interactivity. Please raise your hand if you have a clear succession plan for all your critical roles in your organization. Okay, that's about 7 people, or a lot of shy people, I'm not sure. So about 7 people or 7 organizations. Okay, 8, maybe 10. Okay. But the minority of people in the room today, yeah? Second question is, please raise your hand if you're able to quantify the talent and leadership risks in your organization today. 2? 3, 4, 5, okay, 10, more people this side. Okay, but again, minority, maybe 5% of people in the room. And then finally, please raise your hand if you have an updated skill map of your workforce on future skills. Okay, so let's try and break this down in a little bit more detail. Again, I think that's a minority response from people in the room. And I think it builds on a lot of the things that I was hearing from the panel previously, right? Some of the words around disruption, some of the words around uncertainty. I want to use a lot of acronyms in the presentation today, so forgive me if it's a lot of jargon. Let's start with the big picture, okay? Mercer collaborates with the World Economic Forum on big global research projects, and this is from 2024, I believe. If you look at the top 10 current global risks addressed by corporate strategies, if you look at that list of 10 risks, as an outsider, as a visitor to Qatar, you could say maybe Qatar's experienced all of those, and your organization would have experienced all of those in the last 5 or 6 years. If we just look at some of those risks, right? And the triple espresso that I want to condense those down to in the next 12 minutes or so that we've got together is really trying to focus on key talent imperatives for 2025 and beyond, okay? I recently wrote a book called The Future of Assessments, Talent Assessments and Talent Development. And I actually think, since looking at a lot of this most recent research, globally, but also from the data we're gathering in Qatar as well, that the future is assessments. I think the panel previously were talking about good quality data, robust data, something which can be benchmarked locally and internationally, and I think good quality assessments that give you that objective, external, trusted viewpoint is really what we offer at Mercer Talent Enterprise. So the triple espresso of key talent imperatives for 2025 and beyond is, first of all, leadership. And I want to talk a little bit about some key insights that we're gathering on leadership that works today and for the future. Skills, and then succession. Okay, so leadership, skills, and succession. let's go into the first one. Again, first set of acronyms. I'm sure you've all heard of the VUCA acronym, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I think since we've had an orange man from Florida take power, I think there's a new acronym that replaces that, right? There's the BINA acronym. Have you heard of that? B-I-N-A. So that's brittle. I had to write it down. Incomprehensible, non-linear, and anxiety-inducing. Okay, and that translates not just at a political level, but it translates into our organizations, right? Especially if we're in international trade, if we are getting talent from different labor markets, if we're working to global standards, all of these are being impacted. Okay, and this is only the beginning. And I think our research at Mercer Talent Enterprise is talking about the landscape that leadership is working with is a little bit like this, right? It's sort of trying to thread the eye of a needle whilst being on a roller coaster. Okay, things are changing so much. It's not about having something which is predictable. It's having something which is constantly dynamic. And this is changing the way that leaders have to perform. And if you look at some of the data, it says that we're in an engagement or a well-being or a productivity or a positivity crisis in many of our organizations. But for senior executives, this is actually more higher than it is for other employment groups because of the challenges that are being faced. The way that we interpret that at Mercer Talent Enterprise, and we won't have time to go into it, but we do have more details on our stand, is we talk about 5 executive paradoxes that we have to navigate as leaders. And it's not good enough anymore if there are any leadership development or leadership assessment organizations which are telling you there's one simple model that's just going to give you the answer. I'm sorry, that's in the UK we would call that boulder dash, right? In Spain they would call it caca de vaca, okay? It's just not good enough, okay? Because we don't live in that stable world anymore. We have to constantly navigate, and our research is saying at least 5 different paradoxes to be able to perform as an effective executive, okay? And our development and assessment protocols reflect that. So really this is the big change that we're seeing from a leadership perspective. Greater levels of ambiguous uncertainty, and then having a skill more akin to being a surfer to be able to ride the wave of uncertainty, some of which is known, but a lot of which is currently unknown. Okay, the second shot for your cup of espresso this morning, okay, is really about talking about skills. And again, I thought it was very interesting listening to the previous panel, because I think at Mercer Talent Enterprise, what we find is developing and assessing for technical skills is becoming a bigger priority because of some of the challenges that the previous panel was discussing. Okay, we heard about agility, okay, and agility is not met anymore by having really detailed job descriptions or having a really hierarchical organization structure or having fixed bureaucratic protocols. Okay, I don't think there's any organization in the world or in Qatar specifically. It used to be thought that banks and government institutions were very stable. But that's not the case anywhere anymore. Okay, we cannot have that level of predictability that we used to have before. We have to manage for agility. And the way to answer some of those challenges is, instead of focusing on roles and jobs, is to focus on micro skills. Okay, now that could be technical skills, it could be behavioral skills, it could be professional skills, but these more atomistic approaches are what is helping our clients advance. Okay, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Some of that's being driven by technology. Okay, so the implementation of AI into our everyday work practices is driving a focus on skills. okay, individual tasks, okay, particular parts of value addition rather than looking at a whole role or a whole job or a whole function, okay, and being able to determine which skills are hot in a particularly hot labor market like Qatar, for instance, is really what's driving the talent landscape going forward. Okay, so we're seeing skills scarcity, but we're also seeing an ability to be able to focus on skills that drive innovation, that adapt to this VUCA or BINA world, promoting a culture of trust and confidence as well as competence is something which is having more and more of an impact on the performance, productivity, and positivity of our clients. So what we do is we provide trusted, external, objective, benchmarked assessments around skills. Okay, so we have a whole skills architecture based on years of research that we've done globally in the GCC and within Qatar specifically, to talk about giving you an inferred skills rating. Okay, often this is where it will be rated first by the individual. Okay, rated skills, which could be from the manager or from other key performance stakeholders, could be customers, could be colleagues, could be regulators. And then finally, I think, which is our sweet spot, is validated skills, right? Where we can come in and give you an unbiased approach to a benchmark around how does this person's skills and capability in a particular area stack up against the most relevant benchmark that you have. Whether that's a Qatari benchmark, whether that's an expatriate benchmark, whether that's a global or a regional, professional or industry benchmark. So what we're trying to do is give you that degree of predictability. Now, we can't do that in the big picture anymore. I think that's clear, right? That's no longer the case. But we can do that on this micro-atomistic level when we focus on specific skills or specific behaviors. So our role is to give you talent insights, to give you predictable, statistically significant, robust assessments that also give you this insight, foresight, and outsight. Okay, 3 minutes to go. Final shot for your triple espresso is managing talent risks, and particularly in regards to high potential identification and succession planning. Okay, so I think if you were there for the boardroom session yesterday, you would have seen a lot more detail from my colleagues, Radhika, Maha. They would have gone into this a great deal of detail, but a lot of your roles as people professionals is about dealing with risk, dealing with people risk in particular. And when it comes to high potential identification and succession planning in particular, it's about building that talent pipeline, conducting, again, objective, external, validated assessments to help you to identify where those vacancy, readiness, transition, or portfolio risks exist. Sorry, we won't have time to go into those in detail today, but we do have a lot more detail if you want to come and join us at our stand. This is something which I'm really passionate about. I'm an amateur astronomer. I love going camping, going to the desert, and getting my telescope out. And it's really interesting in astronomy. In the last 10 years, astronomers have realized that 93% of the universe is completely invisible and unknowable, right? It's this thing called dark matter. And as a people professional, I think a lot of our organizations are also like that. Okay, if we talk about succession planning, if we talk about high potential identification, if we talk about talent management, leadership development, okay, often we focus on those bright, shiny objects in the sky, right? That's 7% of the visible universe. Okay, and we know some of these people and their personalities. Sometimes they're very visible. Okay, they sort of demand a lot of attention. Okay, but actually, what drives the behavior and the performance and the productivity of a lot of our organizations, just like the universe, is the other 93%. It's the dark matter. It's the things we don't see or we don't pay attention to. And I think what's really exciting for me is that with using great technology, we can reduce the unit cost of a lot of assessments that used to be very elite. Okay, they used to be very expensive, but now we can be more democratic in the way that we run talent management, talent assessments and talent development protocols. High potential and succession planning used to be only for N-1 or maybe N-2. Now we can run it through the organization and uncover some of these SHIPOs, right? Some of these talent pools that are previously unrepresented in our organization. So to conclude, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about a focus on skills, and we're talking about an increased focus on identifying potential and succession. You need great technology to be able to support that. We have a Lighthouse platform which uses a lot of AI and other technology selectively, which can help support this and, as I said, reduce the unit cost and democratize some of the access to some of these tools that we used to have. Get ready, right? Because we're only at the beginning of this disruption and the war for talent is exploding. I'm sure you're feeling that in certain roles and certain skills that you have in your organization. I'm sorry that this was such a short session, but please do come and see us at our stand next door. We are running our first TRS in Qatar this year. So that's our remuneration survey specifically for Qatar to give you, from a compensation perspective, some of that data. If you want to find out more, you can scan this QR code or come and see us next door. And in particular, if you want to find out more about executive assessment and how we are trying to positively disrupt the world of executive assessment, we think the Shrek companies, to use my final acronym, if you know the Shrek companies, this is Spencer Stewart, Heidrick & Struggles, Russell Reynolds, Egon Zehnder, Korn Ferry. They also do a lot of executive assessments, but they have, just like Shrek, the cartoon character, they have a little bit of a sort of ugly, smelly side in the sense that they also provide candidates. Okay, so we are saying we don't do that. We're trying to stay objective and just focus on being your assessment partner. So thank you very much for your time, for your attention. I'm sorry it was so quick, but we'll be next door all day. Would love to continue the conversation. We have a lot more resources around our assessments. You can come and try some samples, and it will be great to continue the conversation. Thank you.